Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
Oh, this week we're going to get into that one scene from the 1993 Brian De Palma film, Carlito's Way.
Okay, I'm diving in! Alright everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Poulter.
And if you like what you see / hear, please like and subscribe. You can find us all the spaces and places that people what?
Find good media.
That is right. We do one-on-ones, punishment reviews, festivals, and every other week we do these scene analyses. Analysi. And
I'll let you keep going now.
Hey, thanks, man. Really let me dig this hole for myself.
Yeah, appreciate it.
This is one that you chose. In fact, it was like right out of the gates. We were texting. I was out of town, and you were like, how about that reloading scene in Carlito's Way? And I was like, okay, yeah. Why did you pick this scene?
Well, a lot of reasons. Probably one of my favorite movies of the 90s. Like, I would put it in my top 10 of 90s films. You know, we've talked about this before. Al Pacino.
Yep.
You're familiar with him.
I know Al Pacino, yes.
He, everyone, Brian De Palma on his own, great, has some great stuff. Like, he's done a lot of great stuff. Scarface is the most obvious comparison to this one. Untouchables, Casualties of War, Bonfire of the Vanities. Yeah. And then you get into some stinkers like, Snake Eyes and Black Dahlia and stuff like that. And as he got older, his movies kind of like, but like, what he's known for. Untouchables is a fucking almost perfect movie. Like, if you're into that kind of stuff.
That's the Chicago way.
But everyone loves Scarface, right? It's a pop culture icon. And I famously said in one of our podcasts,
it's one of my favorite quotes of yours of all time,
was just that, I think pop culture and society view that movie in a much better light than it actually is from a movie perspective.
I believe what you said was that all of the silk screeners' careers, I'm misquoting you, but it's something about all the silk screeners' careers do not do service to how flawed the movie actually is.
The movie, I have a lot of love for it, and I love the flaws of the movie, and that's part of it. And Pacino's performance is unreal in that movie. That's what makes the movie is him.
Especially when you compare it to Godfather 1, which were really close, closely made.
Very different too.
Yeah, and like his character is so wildly different in each one.
But for me, this is my favorite Pacino and De Palma. This is essentially a grown-up, more wiser Scarface who got caught instead of blown up in a blaze of glory.
If Tony Montana had been arrested and sent to prison for X amount of years and had decided instead of that blaze of glory, he just wanted to do something different. Like, this is that. I mean, he's tired, he's wise, he's jaded, but he still knows every angle, knows every trick.
Yeah, I mean, he had to, I would love to do a full review of this movie at some point because it's got such an amazing tone and feel, especially for a 90s movies. It seems pretty timeless.
Yeah.
Obviously, we've got Pacino. And then John Ortiz, who plays his cousin in here, who went on to do awesome stuff. He's a great actor today. But we have an amazing Sean Penn here. Penelope Ann Miller, Luis Guzman is awesome in this. And amazing young cameos from John Leguizamo and Viggo Mortensen.
Benny
Blanco from the Bronx. That's right.
Now, who is the guy that his cousin meets? I know that dude.
I'm not sure.
He's a character actor though, and the guy is like as ugly as a shoe. He's amazing looking, but he just looks like when you see him.
Hey, who is this?
Yeah, you're like, who is this guy? Yeah. He's got this like Igor vibe to him that you've seen, but I can't place him.
But we get to this, so this movie is essentially about, 15 minutes. He just got out of, Sean Penn's his lawyer. He just got out. He's not going back. He wants to go out and sell wave runners somewhere. He's like, those guys don't get shots.
He's got a plan. Yeah.
He doesn't, he knows he's not going back.
Yeah.
Right. Like that's the only thing. And this scene is essentially the first bad situation that he's been put in.
And hasn't he literally been out of prison for like 5 minutes? I only watched the scene. I didn't watch before it. Mm-hmm. But doesn't it go from the courthouse scene to this is his cousin like picking him up?
It's
or thereabouts.
It's
I
close.
don't think that there's a whole lot.
He's been out a little bit. I think he has a walk and talk with Luis Guzman for a little while.
Oh, maybe that's
a lot. Some people
in my head, it's like he just got picked up from prison. Though,
it's not
much.
far off.
Yeah.
It's not far off. But both Sean Penn and multiple people are like, hey, Carlito, when are you going to come back? And what's your next move? He's like, I got no
nothing.
Moves.
Yeah,
I'm not go. I just want to leave. I want to make enough money to be comfortable and retire on the beach.
I mean, it's the Shakespearean tragedy of the film, right?
One
it's
last
like he
job.
can never actually get out. Yeah, 2 days from retirement, right? It's like, oh, he's gonna live a long and fruitful life.
Yeah, totally. You know what? And he's gonna do one last favor for his cousin here in this scene. They go through this barber shop, and I think the scene actually opens up in the car, and he's like, the cousin's trying to impress Carlito.
These are my friends. If I showed up with you, they'd freak.
Yeah, you're a fucking legend, man.
I would say that this is the first tell because this scene is full of all, because our very opening scene in the courthouse of the movie is really Carlito's being a smartass to the judge. It's great. And it really is this like kiss my ass because he gets off on a technicality. Technically, he's supposed to be in prison for life or who knows how long.
Sure.
And Sean Penn gets him off on this technicality. So it's a smartass, smarmy version of Carlito. Then after that with Luis Guzman, we get the serious version of him where it's like, oh, he really doesn't want to get back in. Then this scene happens and we get it is the older, wiser Carlito, but we're seeing
he can read the room in like 30 seconds.
All of the plays that are taking place, we're watching Pacino's eyes and we're realizing that he's the one who's sizing everything up. Now, the very first tell...
But in the car, he tells his cousin's trying to impress him. He's like, 30K.
Yeah.
He's got this laugh that's just like ridiculous.
Yeah, and you're like,
what do you want to do that shit for?
Yeah, you poor idiot, right?
Yeah, and he's just like, he knows his reputation. He doesn't want... He wants to do a favor, so sure, let's go.
And his cousin is like, they'll freak out when I show up. You're like a legend to him. And he's like, not to these younger guys. He's like, no, you totally are. The very first tell is that when they walk in and Carlito is there, the two gangbanger dudes that are there act like they don't know who Carlito is. And it's at that exact moment that his antenna goes up and he starts getting suspicious and he's looking all around. And the cousin's oblivious. Oh, I've got the 30K, ooh, right?
Yeah.
And he's immediately like, can I use the bathroom? No. Oh, it's out of order. Like, somebody's in there.
He,
Like
he sees a little shadow back
all
there.
of this stuff. But I think that the tell starts with these guys acting like they don't know who Carlito is. That he's like, my cousin already told me you guys do, so why are you doing this, right? And I love that you see all of this going through his head, but it's all just through his darting eyes, the way he's kind of moving his hands together. It's so great.
Yeah, absolutely. You have there's so the voiceover in this movie is, a lot of times is kind of unintentional and doesn't necessarily need to be there. But with his performance, and again, this is my favorite Pacino, like one of my favorite Pacino. He just lays it on so thick. I'm walking in there with 30K and walking out with 30,000.
So I've made a decision about Carlito's Way, and I made it when I watched this clip again, which is, and let's just address it really quick. Yes, Brian De Palma has made some of the most important genre films in his career. He's also a massive fucking cornball.
Oh, yeah.
Massive cornball. There's stuff in movies like Carrie where I'm like, oh my God, you thought that whip pan with like an organ that's like, Reenie was good? Like, dude, this came out the same time that a movie like The Shining did. Like, what are you doing? And there's the same thing here. And it happens when the shootout starts. The music is fucking hilarious.
And when you're like, it up too to create tension, right?
Right, but it's no, not the movie music.
Oh.
I'm talking about the ba 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 ba, like
the score?
symphonic score that's happening.
Oh, okay.
And you're like, dude, this is like 15 years after Goodfellas, right? Where it's like, no, you could have like the Stones playing during a shootout. It's badass. It's the mid 90s. And he's like, and ready, symphony, big number. It's super fucking corny. But I've decided, and I say also, I think that the voiceover is equally as corny. I've decided I love it. And I've embraced the corniness because that like,
You have to.
hey, Gail, who knows, man? Maybe some. I'm like, holy shit. We're laying it on so thick here. And when we reviewed this, we reviewed Carlito's Way probably like, I don't know, 13, 14 years ago.
Yeah.
And I love the movie. I love all the performances. But those directorial choices of the score, of the voiceover, at the time, I was like, this dates it pretty poorly.
Yeah, it's dated, but the badass moments, including this one, make up for it.
Baby, I'm leaning in 100%. This time I was like, oh, Jesus, De Palma, like the score.
I didn't notice it as much as you did.
Oh, my God.
I've definitely noticed it. I mean, listen to the music in Scarface. It's
Dude,
not good.
we run the tape. We just talked about what a great movie this is. Go experience the score in The Untouchables. There are moments where you're like, I can't hear what Sean Connery's saying because the violin swells
I think we're seeing a trend here.
What he's saying is overwhelming. But all that being said, I'm leaning in and I'm like, that's part of the pastiche that's making this
For sure.
as amazing as it is.
So after Carlito's kind of eyeballed everything, you can see the little pieces. There's a lot of multiple people in the room, multiple motivations. You know, hey man, go get the beer. You want a beer? He's like, he wants to count the money.
Multiple distractions. I think that there's,
and then Carlito creates a diversion.
There's a lot of similarities in that ratcheting of tension here, as in one of our most popular that one scenes, the Boogie Nights scene. In that, it's the firecrackers.
Yep.
It's the little guy. It's the little kid throwing the firecrackers. It's motoring, right? Sister Christian playing. Here it is the jukebox playing louder and louder. It's these girls trying to dance with the guys, and the guys are trying to.
I agree. The tension
keep their
is similar.
eye on Carlito and his cousin, and so they're like, "Get off of me, bitch!" And so like, there's fighting and argument. Like, there's all of this stuff crackling around.
Building. Yeah. No, I agree. The tension is pretty similar. That's a great comparison. And you know, we get the setup with the pool trick, and they don't even really show the pool table, and you don't know what kind of trick he's doing, and you know, we see the guys like, hey, get a beer, it's at the bottom, you know, and just everything setting up to this go very badly, and then you get this awesome shot of the guy's glasses and the guy's coming across
with the knife
and it's such an epic shot.
Can we, before we go to that, can we do the one right before it, which is again brilliant, and the camera is zooming in. And Carlito, he's got the arm around the one henchman and he's showing him the pool cue. And he's like, yeah. And as the camera moves in, he's looking and he's doing his whole thing, talking about the pool ball. And then just at the very last moment before the cut ends, he looks up directly into the camera because he's looking at his cousin, seeing like, has the move happened yet?
Yeah.
And just that one eye flick up, any doubt that we had about everything that's happening. Like we're clued in for the most part, but that's the signal of like the shit's gonna go down in about 5 seconds. And it's and then we get to the shot you're talking about of the mirrored aviators with the guy through it, and it's pretty fantastic.
I think the biggest thing I learned from this scene was just that this proves he is a generational actor. This scene, especially when he goes into the bathroom. Yeah. When he's in there and he has
the bluff.
Yeah.
The bluff is just
he has no bullets.
Yeah.
He's basing everything off of his reputation at that point.
Yeah.
But he makes sure that
they hear
I'm reloaded. Come on, motherfuckers.
Yeah. Like,
you know,
it's so good.
You think you're big time?
Yeah.
You're gonna fucking die big time. Like, what a great line.
And also that like there is this
here come the pain.
And there's something about it where it's like, obviously like that is this classic line. I mean, Slipknot started an album with that sample, right?
Well, I mean
it's a
multiple hardcore bands and rappers have used Scarface and this mixed into their music or intros and stuff like that.
But I think on revisit, the fact that it's all a bluff and that it is, to your point, all based upon a predisposition that he understands exists about his legend, right? To all of these young idiots, and that none of these guys have done the time that he's done. There's this lovely adult pragmatism to that bluff, like inside that room where he's like, and it's empty, and he's like, oh Jesus, man. It's not, it isn't an over the top freak out. It's a Harrison Ford level, I'm tired freak out of just like, Jesus
I love
Christ,
that.
right? And so then you're gonna die big time. You can see the yell is there, but his face, it's a beautiful performance because the face is, are they buying this? Like the face isn't like, oh, I'm gonna go out there and I'm about to die. It's, I hope this is working.
Absolutely.
It's so pragmatic. I love the way that's done.
I agree. No, and I think he's at a point, and he's been in these situations before, and he knows how to handle himself, right?
Yeah.
And I think one of the most impressive parts of this, the tension's great, his performance is amazing, but this shot inside the bathroom starts up in the ceiling.
Yeah.
And it kind of just slowly drifts into a close up by the end.
Yeah,
and he,
level with him.
And once he shuts off the light, and you get that perfect lighting on his face, and it's just like the movie poster, I think.
Yeah.
Anyways, but it's just like, and I think it's pretty easy to. A lot of people give Pacino shit for being the hoo-ha, like that guy, so much.
Yeah.
And like this moment where he's fearing for his life, it works so well here.
Yeah.
And I don't think he was really that guy at this point. I think he kind of turned into that guy a little more
agree.
With Heat and Son of a Woman and stuff like that.
That's where it started to happen.
Which isn't far away from this, but like you kind of see that here, but it's used very well and really gives depth to his character and to the tension that this has built. So
well, his character at this point has had so much of the machismo that his attitude towards it is snarky, right? He is, I mean, he takes it deadly serious, and I think he's really sad, and like when he comes out and he sees his cousin with his throat slit, or his nephew or whatever it is, and he's like, oh man, like what a mess, But
I think it's his nephew actually.
But what it is that he has a sarcasm to this tough guy bullshit, because he kept his mouth closed. He did his time. And during that time, he saw a bunch of other guys that he knew, that he grew up with, sell out, get killed, everything else.
Or still in prison.
Guys who turned on him and weren't willing to do their time. So this idea of loyalty, this idea of all this kind of stuff, right from the get-go, where he's like, oh, they're good guys, huh? They're your friends? Like right from that, there is
voiceover, he does it. He said, I thought these were your friends. But he's trying not to be the guy he was.
Yeah.
But in these moments where he's grasping the situation and who he used to be, it's innate to protect himself. And that can't help but come out, right? And it's really great character contrast with his reputation behind him that really helps make that statement.
And
right?
this scene, I mean, a little bit with Luis Guzman and their conversation, but really this scene is the brush that the rest of the movie is painted with. Sure. It's not these particular guys.
He takes the $30,000.
He takes the $30,000, and there's a thread attached to that, but really it's that no one's going to let you actually leave this life, because we've already decided who you are, right?
He thought he was out.
That's a different movie, but still the same thing. Last thing I'll say, Pacino's amazing. It's fucking nuts that an Italian-American dude, even up into the 90s, was playing like a Latino Cuban guy without batting an eye. I don't know if there's a really great, pretty recent interview with you just said Benny Blanc, John Leguizamo, talking about being a young Cuban actor and meeting Al Pacino and being like, obviously the guy was Tony Montana, and he's like, but he's an Italian guy. Like, it was super fucking weird as one of a handful of actual like Cuban American dudes on that movie, watching him doing the accent and kind of looking around being like, I mean, this is cool because it's Al Pacino, but like, this is fucking weird, right?
Interesting. I'd never thought of that.
Yeah, and he's like, we all just accepted it. And he's like, all these years later, he's like, look, nothing against Pacino. I got to act next to Pacino. It was amazing. He's like, but as a dude who actually came up from that culture, thinking about it all these years later, he's like, it's wild that we just like let that shit go, and that nobody was like, is this problematic? Because you're like,
I mean, honestly,
technically it is.
No one thought about it at that point.
No, they didn't, but it actually is kind of wild. Like, even up into the 90s, they were like, oh, it's like he's playing Tony Montana again. You're like, which technically he probably shouldn't have in the first place.
Interesting.
I mean, generational actor, amazing, but at least an asterisk is worth throwing in there, right? I mean,
interesting.
Just as far as representation goes.
You could put that asterisk by many an actor. So
yes, and I'm not saying that you couldn't. It's just because we were reviewing it, I was like, it's kind of wild.
I didn't even think
just because he's so good at it, and because of Scarface and a bunch of other stuff. But you're like,
sure,
not at all. Like, he might as well be playing like a Native American guy.
Interesting,
right?
Yeah,
you're like an Italian American playing a Native American.
Yeah, I mean,
classic Hollywood.
Yeah, he's acting.
Yeah.
All right. Well, thank you, everyone. Next week we will continue and end out our food movie festival with Jiro Dreams of Sushi.
Yeah.
And please like and subscribe. Follow along, play along with these scenes or our festivals. Go to YouTube, hit that bell icon. Instagram is another active social media channel. Would love to have you there. And join us.
Bye, you guys.
See you.